It's a summer day. There's birth and death, and no birth and no death. Buddhas and realizations, delusion and realizations, and no delusion and realizations. What's a person to do? And what's this have to do with us and living? And there was no climate change agreement 2 days ago, and now maybe there is a climate change agreement, and maybe there's a recession, and maybe there's not a recession. And the Pope apologized, and of course there was a response from the Native American community. It's all call and response. It's all, it seems to me on the most intimate level, it's a conversation, but it's a deep embodied conversation with each person, with the world, with all parts of ourselves, what we like, what we don't like, and that the world is Buddha. If the whole world is Buddha's body, Buddha and the whole world so much wants us to wake up. I think that's, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas so much have our back. And when each person says, yes, I will, they all go, oh, wow. The world is coming a little bit closer to kindness and goodness and compassion. So the Genjo Koan, I think the way I'm going to start identifying what I'm doing is I'll say what the verses are, and I think if you look in what's we're putting in the newsletter, I think it's numbered. They're all double checked. We're going to do verse 5 today, and I want to read you commentaries from Okamura Sensei from Realizing Genjo Koan, which is really a beautiful book. And then, as always, what's it got to do with us? When you first seek the Dharma, maybe 40 years ago, maybe the minute you were born, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 5 minutes ago, maybe this last moment was your first moment, really, of seeking the Dharma forever. You imagine you are far away from its environs. Like the Dharma is over there, and this sounds interesting, and maybe I'll get it. And maybe it looks like, well, some of those other people, maybe they got it. Or certainly the Buddha's got it, whatever it is. But Dogen says, but Dharma is already correctly transmitted. It is already here. And you are immediately your original self. It's right here, it's right now. There's no place to get to. Okay, so here's Okamura, talking about original person. Remember when we did an informal practice period about becoming a true human being, a true person? He says, original person is a translation of Hunbun Ni, a reference to the self living in the network of interdependent origination. Hon can be literally translated as original, true, root, or source, and bun means part or portion, and nin is person. So this word, which has the same meaning as original face, that's one of the Zen koans, is who are you before your parents were born, or what is your original face, refers to a person who is one with the original source that exists before karmic conditioning. This original person is actualized when we sit zazen and let go of thinking. I think you were actualizing it, we were actualizing it doing kinyin. Just let go of the cave of thinking. It's such a great image. It's kind of, you just close, I mean, caves, I love caves, but if you're in a cave, know you're in a cave. And know that there's a wide blue sky outside, and don't set one up against the other, but just be aware of where you are. And when you let go of thinking, the whole world can then come forward, which is where it already is. There's no gap. It's alive. And it's all here. And you don't have to figure it out. You just need to be awake enough in the moment, so that we can find the appropriate response. That's all, moment after moment. When we open the hand of thought, that's one of Uchiyama's, his teachers. It's such a beautiful image, is just open the hand of thought. You're in this little cave, open it. In a sense, we negate everything within our karmic consciousness, which means we're not caught by where you were born, who you think you are, what happened to you, causes and conditions and culture, and in fact, we even let go of any idea about becoming a Buddha. You just let go of it all. Because if you have some idea about what a Buddha is, or what an improved version of you is, you're already in a cave, thinking about chasing your own tail. Which is, of course, that's fine too, but just know that's what you're doing. Thoughts well up even when we let them go, but we just keep releasing them without grasping. We are also, in a sense, accepting anything that springs up. Don't you sometimes, like, something springs up in your consciousness and you just go, whoa, where did that come from? Sometimes there's wonder, and sometimes there's shame, and sometimes there's just like, ay, this little thinking ticker tape in here is amazing. In Zazen, we neither negate nor affirm anything. We don't control the mind, we just sit. We really do nothing. We just keep sitting upright and waking up and breathing naturally, deeply and quietly from the abdomen as we let go of thoughts. This is why Dogen says, Zazen is non-doing. We're just practicing. We're practicing on the cushion together. This is the form passed to us to practice actualizing being fully alive. That's all. Zazen's not special. It's just this beautiful ritual we do of I do nothing. Sitting is no longer my action anymore. That's why when you come into the Zendo, you bow. It's like you bow to the cushion, you bow to the world, you give yourself over. This is not me doing anything. This is just me sitting myself down in the lap of the Buddha and the world. Just give yourself to it and trust yourself. The entire universe is sitting, using this body and mind, that's all. Isn't that beautiful? That's what you're doing when you sit. You give yourself to the whole universe, and the whole universe is sitting with and through you. In doing so, we put our entire being on the ground of interdependent origination, on the ground of impermanence, and lack of independent existence that is the original source. This Zazen is itself dropping off body and mind. If the words don't make sense to you, you already know it because you sit Zazen. Zazen sits you. You know this in an intuitive way, and Dogen is just giving language to mirror and reflect. Because one, the mind likes things to think about, and that's good, it wants to understand. But fundamentally, just give your body, just wholeheartedly. In breath, out breath. And the whole world is right here. And it includes all the problems of the world, all the things we need to do about it, all the things we might imagine, all the likes, and it includes the sun and the moon and the stars and timelessness and love and grief. All of it. All you have to do is sit down in the middle of it, over and over. Okay, so now here's a really famous image. Is when you ride in a boat, I've thought about, well, I've been out in boats, and this has come up, and because for a long time, I'm so dyslexic, I could never get what Dogen was talking about. When you get in a boat, next time you get in a boat, think about this. When you ride in a boat and watch the shore, you assume that the shore is moving. Don't you think that? Isn't that the experience? That you're just on this stable little boat and everything is going by. But when you keep your eyes closely on the boat, If you watch the boat intimately, more intimately than we're used to watching it, you see that the boat is actually moving. And this is a metaphor for the self or life. Similarly, if you examine myriad things with a confused body-mind, our ordinary body-mind, the way we conventionally examine or think about things, you might think that your body and mind are permanent. Like, here I am in my little boat, bringing myself forward. This is my boat. I think, here I am, sun, moon, and shore, but hey, I'm in my boat. But Dogen says if you watch carefully, it's not the shore that's moving. There's nothing permanent here. Everything is moving. So let me read you what Okamura says. Dogen uses the analogy of riding in a boat in 2 other chapters in the Shobogenzo, Zenki, total dynamic function, and Zuki, the moon. Life is, for example, similar to a person riding in a boat. In this boat, I use the sails, I am at the helm, and I pull the boat. Although I operate the boat is carrying me, and there is no other I than the boat. I am on the boat, and I make the boat move. We should inquire and study this very moment. At this very moment, there is nothing other than the world of the boat. The sky, the water, the coast, all become the time of the boat. This is not the same as the time of not riding in the boat. Therefore, I give birth to life. Life makes me into me. And when we are riding in a boat, our body and mind, self and environment are all essential parts of the boat. There is no way there is a boat without you and the entire world. And the wood, and the person who made the boat, and the time, and the place, everything is coming into complete actualization in this particular moment. And mostly we're just thinking it's me in control of it all. The whole great earth and the whole of empty space are essential parts of the boat. I as life and life as I are thus. This passage explains the preceding paragraph of Genjo Koan. The self, the boat, the coast, the entire ocean, and the whole universe are all moving and functioning together. It's kind of wonderful. I ring the bell, and you each think you get up from your chair, or your home chair, or wherever you are, and that you're doing it separately, but we're all completely functioning together, right? That's the beautiful part of these rituals. And then you go out and you walk and you think you're doing it separately, and you're on the screen and we're here. But we're all doing it completely together, which means we're in time and we're also in timeless time. We are affecting each other and the whole world. Dogen Zenji says that there is no fixed self that does not move. All things are moving, and this entire world, which is always moving, is me. But you're just so much bigger than you think. Just this, for example, moving eyes are able to stir calm waters, and still eyes are able to make fire seem to swirl. So too it is when a cloud flies, the moon moves, and when a boat sails, the shore drifts. Okay. When you practice intimately, not in the little cave of thought, but close, body, and return to where you are, zazen body, just here. When you're really mindful, when you're closer to your experience than we normally are, embodied experience, 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 not me experiencing out there, just a live experience, it will be clear that nothing at all has unchanging self. Everything is alive and moving. Our personalities, our hearts, our minds, our bodies are in a constant state of flux, and we come to realize this by practicing intimately until returning to where we are, which is Zazen. In other words, the continuity that we see in our lives, which is actually there, is not there at all in the way that we think it is. And continuity that we think of in ourselves is delusion. But remember, Buddhas aren't not deluded, they understand they're deluded. It's like, just be aware. This is how human beings perceive, and, well, look a little more deeply, especially in a situation where you feel stuck and you feel like somebody is out there and it's happening to you, and all the things that come up. Let me just, a little bit more from Okumura. Everything in the universe is moving and changing. And this is total dynamic function. That's actually a Buddhist term for being fully alive. Total dynamic functioning. That's what's happening all the time. This is the reality of our lives. Our movement within this reality is expressed when we arouse Bodhi mind, which is the mind of practice, which is the mind of way-seeking mind, is what is it? What's the meaning of this life? Who am I really? What am I doing here? And continue to practice as we meet every situation in our lives. When we cling to certain views, theories, or concepts of reality, we become caught up in mere thinking and lose sight of true reality. He always urges us, Dogen, to escape from the cave of thinking and to meet and live out reality as it comes to us. So I thought on Tuesday, the circumstances of the world, and especially right now, seem to be coming so fast. It's like it's whiplash. It's like, whoa, just got that. Now it's this. It's and so that our little human bodies and minds can feel overwhelmed, confused, depressed, shut down, indifferent, denial. But if we open to that this is an alive conversation, but it's like it's through our pores and our breath and our senses and our heart, our one heart, then it becomes much more it's like, instead of it being problems and different points of view, I suppose in a sense there's a kind of song or a poem to it that includes the grief. Because there is grief and change and impermanence. And there's also wonder, and things change. So on Tuesday, I talked a little bit and read some of what the Pope had said, which after so much suffering, someone, i.e. him, let in deeply the suffering of what has been revealed about what happened in the boarding schools in Canada, and he addressed it. And in a way that felt like true repentance, said, I really apologize. I thought, oh, this is, if in our country, this might be the beginning of like reparations. It's like not dealing with money, or it's just like saying, to the degree I can get it, something really, there was great harm and suffering done here. And then we'd see what would happen next. And of course, what happened next, and it's all in motion and nobody knows, and it's time, is that some Native American leaders said, thank you very much, and we're there, and others said, this is way too hard to come, because there is so much pain and suffering that has happened, and that what you said didn't even begin to touch some of the hardest things that happened. So you could make it either or you could say something is moving here, and how to stay in this conversation, which involves deep listening and willingness to feel all the way through, which is the only way you can do that. The only way I can do that is Zazen body, which is just breathe and notice where you're holding your breath and where we want to pull away. So this isn't just about this instance. I mean, we can do this in any instance in your own life, which I'm going to ask you in a minute. But I wanted to bring a poem. This is a book, an anthology of Native Nations poetry. When the light of the world was subdued, our songs came through. It's edited by Joy Harjo. I spent some time reading it this morning, and so much of it was so full of pain. It's so beautiful, but somehow it's hard. So I'm going to read you one by Gail Tremblay, Indian Singing in 20th Century America. We wake the day, the light rising in us like sun, our breath of prayer brushing against the feathers in our hand. We stumble out onto streets, patterns of wires invented by strangers are strung between eye and sky, and we dance in two worlds, inevitable as seasons in one, exotic curiosities in the other, which rushes headlong down highways, watches us from car windows, explains us to its children in words that no one could ever make sense of. The image obscures the vision, and we wonder whether anyone will ever hear our own names for who we are. Light dances in the body, surrounds all living things. Even the stones sing, although their songs are infinitely slower than the ones we learn from trees. Isn't that beautiful? Even the stones sing, although their songs are infinitely slower than the ones we learn from trees. It's singing. No human voice lasts long enough to make such music sound. Earth breeze eddies between factories and office buildings, caresses the surface of our skin. We go to jobs, the boss always watching the clock to make sure we're on time. He tries to shut out magic and hopes we'll make mistakes or disappear. We work fast and steady and remember each breath alters the composition of the air. Each breath alters the composition of the air. Change moves relentless, the pattern unfolding despite their planning. We're always here, singing round dance songs, remembering what supports our life, impossible to ignore. So let's bring it close in our own lives. What's moving in you and in your life? Relentless. And each breath alters the composition of the air. It is and it isn't. And it is. And you can't, this conversation that's happening on so many levels all the time and is happening in the world and inside and between those we love and the ones that we are having problems with is it's alive and it's dynamic. Despite our planning, it's unfolding despite our planning. What's unfolding in your life now despite your planning? And how are you responding to it? And how does breath alter the composition of the very air of this life that is living you? Okay? So what's happening in your life? What's unfolding?